good to have you. I know starting off the first time I heard of Deeper was actually through the Rat Boys Halloween telethon.
Oh, hell
Oh,
yeah.
sick.
Yeah, that was
And
that was really fun. That was like some of the most fun you could have during
totally.
COVID.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And it's funny, I keep looking back at like when I look at like the all the people that were involved in that, I'm like every band has grown so much since that happened.
yeah.
And you guys included, and it's good to see you guys making new music, and you got a new album coming out soon too.
Yeah, they did a really great job doing that. That was like we didn't really know the extent of who was involved in that, but like once we kind of did it, it was super fun doing little covers and stuff.
Totally.
Uh, yeah.
Totally cool.
Can you hear my AC? Is that like
Cannot hear your AC. No.
okay, cool. Cool. We'll
You're
keep it on.
good. You're
Cool.
good. um but yeah, so yeah, thanks again for joining. The first thing I like to kind of, I like to start off talking a little bit of music. And the one question I have for both you guys is what are you listening to lately?
Oh, I'm listening to a lot of Soar 2. And today, honestly, I was in a big Lil Yachty kick.
Ooh,
Yeah. I don't know what it
nice.
was, man, but I was just driving around listening to Lil Yachty and feeling real good.
I
But
mean, that last Lil Yachty album was huge.
yeah, man, I don't really know if I'm a big fan on that one, but his Michigan Boy Boat stuff. Like when I hoop, I listen to
Okay.
Michigan Boy Boat, and it opens up my bag. I'm just like fun and figuring shit out and feels good.
Awesome.
I've been listening to, I had to like open up my Spotify, which is super lame. But I've been listening to this band Mana, however you
Okay.
want to say it. Um, they're from Indianapolis, really great kind of like pop music, like
Mhm.
done their way. Um, been listening to the Surfs a lot. And what else is in here? Um, the new Sweeping Promises record is really great.
Okay.
I love that band. Um, I'm like, let's see, the that band, like I don't know how to pronounce her name, no one else does, but it's like Ulrika Spacek,
I
Oh
right?
have no
yeah.
Like
idea.
they're like, yeah, or it's like Spacek or Spacek or
Okay.
something. But they just make like they're like a British band that
Cool.
um yeah, that kind of I didn't know if they like existed in real life. They just kind of like popped up on the algorithm,
Hmm. Hmm.
but they make like really well produced music, kind of dissonant, kind of loungy. I don't know. It's really
For
cool.
sure. Very
Yeah.
nice. Um, but that definitely a range of artists we have covered there. And I guess that, you know, when I think of the sound for Deeper, um, immediately it's obviously sounds very like kind of 80s new wave a little bit, but what do you guys think the influence of the sound comes from?
Man, I think just like the Chicago atmosphere in general,
Hmm.
especially like how we grew up as a band, like through the DIY scene and the spaces we were playing, like shitty PAs and like that meant honing in our tones really well. But I think I think the new wave post-punk genre is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, and so have you guys, you guys are all originally from Chicago?
Kev and Nick are.
Okay.
I've been here for 12 years. I guess
Okay.
I've lived here the most out of anywhere else.
Yeah.
Cool. And in the scene you were talking about, like, you want to go into that a little more, like kind of what it was like coming up in the Chicago music scene a little?
Yeah, I mean, we all met through the Chicago DIY scene in like
Mhm.
the early 2010s. Animal Kingdom was the big one for us, and through some really awesome basement shows, you could see anybody there. And like all the bands were just so sick. It like was kind of a range. but a lot of like garage rock.
Mhm.
But then this band called the Hex, Chicago legends, were just like notorious in that scene. To me, I thought they were the coolest people in the world, and they would only play like 15-minute sets. But yeah, we just growing up through that and then seeing like Twin Peaks as like teenagers growing up into men and uh we're all really good friends with Jason Bala of Dead. And his first band Earring
Mhm.
was kind of like slow chord, noisy stuff, and that was perfect for like a tiny basement, with like cement walls and just like the
Right.
noise bouncing off all the walls. And then his other band, Knee High, just had all the energy and were like, yeah, they were just sweethearts, man. They were great.
Awesome. Yeah, it's fun. I definitely was, I was in college around that time, so it's like I remember very much those. You said Animal Kingdom. I don't specifically. I think I remember that, but I remember a couple of the venues. There was like Friendship Fortress,
Mhm.
and then my friends, if you can call it a venue, it was just in their apartment, but it was called Metaphysics. Um, and that was way up north. But I feel like there was, that kind of scene you guys were into. I was more in like I guess like the emo kind of Chicago scene, and
Yeah.
it's weird because there's two different paths of the kind of people you kind of meet in that process.
Yeah, it certainly felt when we were kind of coming up, like when I was playing my first shows in the scene, like 2012, 2013, 2014. It certainly felt like it was a little more isolated back then than it is now. Like
Mm-hmm.
now it feels like the kind of music that's made is kind of like meant to like traverse between those spaces. There's like, a lot more like fusion, I guess, like for lack of a
Totally.
better word, in what people play now, especially like younger bands. Then like there were kind of these like sets of the Chicago music scene, like when like all those bands that Shiraz just mentioned, which were like those are the bands that I remember. Um, along with like the bands we were playing in. It was like it was good, but like it wasn't like focused on songwriting as much as it was like finding a way to fill a space with noise that people would
Yeah.
be interested in. Like they were still writing songs, but it wasn't so much about the clarity of what you were saying there, and so the space kind of informed that stuff in a way that I didn't really realize until we kind of got out of that,
Sure.
and you kind of had to have something a little more, clear what you were doing.
Awesome. Yeah, and so obviously here you guys are. You're releasing a new album in September, right?
Yep.
How has, I guess, the difference between your last album and this new one? Do you guys feel like your kind of songwriting has evolved differently, or I guess getting from that album to this next one? What was that kind of process?
This one's a funny one for us where it was written over COVID,
Mhm.
and we usually just all write together like through like jamming and like figuring out the parts and like where space is available for each one of us to take or set back. But this one, we really focused on like writing online using Ableton Live and Splice, and we were like really able to like dissect parts a lot easier that way. For me, honestly, it was a little harder, like as a drummer. And like I don't have like drum machines. Like I have an SPDSX, but like was like never wrote online in that way. So I kind of would just really listen to what everyone was putting down and trying to figure it out in my head. And when we were finally able to meet up, like finally able to like write my own parts.
Cool. Was it same for you, Kevin?
Yeah, I think like the process, like as kind of, I don't know, Shiraz just said, is like a lot different than I guess what was done before. So the songs came in a little like um a little, yeah, I don't know, a little more fully formed,
Mhm.
at the time that we kind of like addressed them. So I think like the songwriting certainly is like a lot more unique song to song
Mhm.
on the record. It's like a little more varied than like what I don't know you've heard on like Autopane or like the self-titled. where I think things kind of like are of a piece, and there's like, you know, you can kind of hear that there was like 2 or 3 songs written in the span of like 2 weeks
Right.
or something in these little packs. But you know, these are kind of like, yeah, this one, you know, this one came out, you know, at one time, and then a month later this was written, and then like 4 months later this was written. It was kind of a little more like segmented like that, and I think you can hear that when I think that, I don't know, it's cool to give like a unique, you know, listening experience compared to the first 2 records.
Sure. Do you feel like in that sense, there's almost like more of a individual ownership over certain songs, where like it feels like someone, you know, everyone kind of brings theirs a little further along, and then you kind of all bring it together? Or do you still feel like it's the same process where like it still comes together like evenly, naturally?
We actually checked out some old demos on the road, driving back home, and it was really cool to see the progression on like how it was like from the beginning, and like, oh, that's very much a Nick song, but then hearing the end version of that song, it just feels like a deeper song. Like we're all able to bring our own energies and minds into it, and just create something bigger, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of songs where, yeah, just like that, I thought that they were completely fully formed by the time they came to us. Or something. It was like, okay, you can change this thing here and there a little bit, but hearing back the first version, you're like, this is actually kind of completely different. It like, you know, everything but like the vocal performance is pretty different here. So, yeah, it was cool to feel that.
That's great. Yeah, I'm super excited to listen to the new one. And you know, by September it'll almost be basketball season again.
Ooh, can't wait.
Is anyone else, are you two the only basketball fans in the band, or is anyone else into it?
Drew
No,
is a basketball guy as well.
yeah, Drew's a
We're trying to get Nick into it. He kind of zones out when we talk about basketball, but then he was like, okay, I gotta learn. And he went on the NBA.com, and the first article up was about cats. And he was like, oh, Karl Anthony Towns, man, he's my guy. We're like,
Oh
oh,
no, oh
nice, Nick.
no.
You know somebody.
It's
But
kind of
that's
a
not
good
the one
pull.
you want.
No, it's not. That's not your guy.
Like that's kind of a good pull, though. Maybe he has
Yeah.
been paying attention.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
he can learn. I don't know if you guys, this is baseball, but have you seen Immaculate Grid? That's like a baseball thing.
I'm
No.
doing the NBA crossover every
So
day.
that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Maybe he can learn by just doing crossover and like doing his research.
And it's so much tougher than I
It's
expected it to
really
be.
hard.
I thought I was going to ace it every day.
No,
I thought I was going to have it.
it's hard because you have to remember like who like the eighth on the depth chart was for like all these teams, and like who played for 8 different teams, like JaVale McGee and stuff like that.
Yeah, you gotta keep like Danny Green and Jay Crowder like in the holster, like the three
DeMar Carroll.
guys.
Yeah.
DeMar Carroll, Robert Covington, like, kind of guys like that get traded for a second round pick every other year. Like those got to stay in your head. Yeah.
And I'm terrible with like, you know, I watched in the 90s, but I can't for the life of me ever like think back to like who were the role players in the 90s, you know?
Yeah, it's like who played on the Cavs in 2001?
Right.
It was like, was that Bill Gauskas? I don't know. That's not right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. But yeah, so you guys are Bulls fans.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a split? Did I hear some potential Bucks fans as well?
Oh, so I grew up, my first 10 years I lived in Paris, and Michael Jordan was just the coolest guy in the world over there. And then in 97, I was a little squirt, and my parents took me to the Bulls game in Paris from the first episode of The Last Dance. And coolest experience, the next day I actually stood in line at oh my gosh, a shoe store, I forgot which one, but Tony Kukoc was doing a signing and got to meet him and was super psyched about that. And my mom is originally from Wisconsin. We go back every summer.
Mhm.
But then in 2002, we moved to Wisconsin. I'm like, okay, I'm in America now. Like, I should root for whatever teams like in my state. So I guess it's the Bucks, and was watching them, and those are like the early Ray Allen days, and
Yeah.
like the Bucks Sixers conference finals was
Mhm.
going on, and we were
Was
really
was
stoked.
Glenn Rice on that team?
Yeah, man, good. Yeah, Glenn Rice, bro.
Vin Baker? Was
Vin
Vin Baker
Baker.
on that
You know
team?
what? I used Vin Baker yesterday in the
I used
crossover
him a
grid.
couple days ago. I felt really good. Yeah.
That's
But
awesome, dude.
yeah, man. But when the Bucks lost that, the Bucks just was like dumpster fire
Yeah.
Yeah.
until like 10 years ago, maybe,
Mhm.
maybe less than that. And it was really hard being a Bucks fan. I was like, fuck it, man. The Bulls are
Yeah.
hot again. We got this young guy, D Rose. Like, I'm watching the Bulls.
There we
He's a
go.
Bucks killer. But yeah, so that's my story.
Cool. And Kevin, you grew up Bulls fan or?
Yeah, I grew up in the suburbs, so
Yeah.
I was, it's like I was born in the late 80s, so
Uh-huh.
The Bulls were everything.
Totally.
Growing up, like, go to a game once a year was like, you know, I think Michael Jordan looked at me actually. Like, and you like tell your friends at school, you're like, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure he looked at me. Like, pretty sure.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, so I've been a pretty big Bulls fan my entire life. So yeah.
Totally. And Shiraz, when I guess when Giannis came into the picture with Milwaukee, did you kind of have it come back a little bit? Are you still like kind of rooting for him on the side?
I mean, yeah, man, the 2021 championship was, I was happy about it, but it's still like watching the Bucks and they lose like a close game, or even I guess when they lost to the Heat,
It was
I didn't
brutal.
feel that kind of like distraught that I
Yeah,
like when the Bulls lost to the Heat. I was way sadder about that than the Bucks losing.
for
But
sure.
I'll definitely bandwagon on the Bucks.
Totally. Totally. Awesome. Um, yeah, so growing up as Bulls fans, you mentioned Derrick Rose. That's like my era where I was like the most a Bulls fan. That's where I came into my own. Do you guys feel the same way?
I remember those teams really fondly. Like I kind of took a couple years off because the Bulls were so bad.
Mhm.
They were just so bad that I was just like,
Brutal.
I can't watch them win.
Jalen Rose on the Bulls, like that era is
Yeah,
rough.
yeah. Like I can't watch them win 20 games 6 years in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember, yeah, when they drafted Noah and then they drafted Rose back to back. Right? It was back to back years and pretty immediately I was like,
Mhm.
great. Let's go back. And I remember that like Celtics series really well when they were like the 1-8 seed, and
Yep.
that was kind of like I was full in at that point.
That was when Heinrich got checked into the boards, right?
Heinrich, yeah, Rondo like threw him into the board. He like
Yeah.
whipped him like it was roller derby or something.
It's crazy.
Into the boards, yeah.
That was a great series. It was definitely like the most I was like into it, and I was like watching every game. I was going to bars and watch games. It was like crazy.
Yeah, Noah stealing it from Paul Pierce and like having that breakaway and dunking was like one of my favorite sports moments. For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
for sure. How do you guys feel about the team going into this year?
I don't know, man.
Like you said it exactly. Like I don't know.
I'm kind of a Bulls optimist. Like I don't
That's nice.
really know why I would be anything else. It's like yeah, like the games are disappointing when they lose, or like they look bad, but it's like I don't know. It's my team. I'm gonna like it until it's like proven to be bad. Like I'm kind of like a Zach LaVine defender.
Mhm.
It's like he's good. He's fun to watch. The team isn't like super good, but I don't know. It's like I'll like get disappointed in the offseason. Like they signed Javon Carter. I'm like, actually, that's a smart pickup. That's actually really smart. It's like,
Okay.
yeah, that's me. I'll do that until about maybe January.
I mean, Javon Carter's just the Derek Jones Jr. swap.
But he's like he's he's like a professional basketball player,
Yeah, yeah.
and there were so many years where like the Bulls like pickups would be like not there's nothing wrong with like Javante Green, you know, but
Mhm.
no other teams really want him,
Yeah.
you know, and that feels like that would be the Bulls thing for like years would be like, oh yeah, we got this guy, he gets like actual minutes on the team, he gets like 19 minutes a game, and then it's like,
Yeah.
but no other team would ever have him, you know, and it's like,
Like a Ronnie Brewer, you know, like
yeah, yeah, or like, you know, it's like, uh, you know, when we signed like Felicio that
oh
contract like
God. Yeah.
years
Oh
ago, you know,
man.
stuff like that is like, I just feel like it makes me go insane because it's just like this is a professional basketball team. We got to do better. Javon Carter actually feels like he was like wanted by multiple teams. You know, like he
Mhm.
checks the three,
Totally.
and he can stay on the NBA court for the Bucks, who are
He's a good piece. Yeah.
yeah, but you know, so that's me. I'm like I'm kind of a
Mhm.
diehard optimist. You know, until about game 64. Yeah,
That's pretty far into the season, to be honest.
yeah. I got nothing. You know, it's like I got no other team to root for. So
Sure.
you know, why not?
Dude,
Fair enough.
what you say about Javante, man? Like he could go to, I don't know, the Knicks and go campaign on the Knicks, you know?
Yeah, that's. I guess that's the other version of Bulls players. It's the campaign, Laurie Markkinen.
Oh God.
You
Yeah.
know, where they're
Ca-
just bad because they're on the poison team. Yeah.
Campaign, who actually was like he played a significant role on the Suns. Like what?
Yeah.
So insane. I actually saw this really funny Instagram clip. He just got traded to the Spurs and he was playing in like a Drew League type of thing.
Hmm.
And he dropped 52, man, at the day after he got traded.
It's also like when Jimmer plays in those type of games and Jimmer's dropping like 70 and they're like, is he coming back to the NBA?
Right? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Jimmer Fredette, the bag is so deep. Boom, boom. He's dropping pull-ups. Yeah.
Like that's what Jimmer was known for, is dropping just like 60, 70 overseas and then couldn't do anything here.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of what like Patrick Williams is like a little bit.
Oh no, don't
Like
say that.
I mean I like him. He's just like kind of timid, you know, but
Yeah.
when, you know, when he plays in like the summer league or when he's like playing against like second string guys
Mm.
or, you know, when he's like in garbage time, he does look like Kawhi Leonard. Like he looks like completely unstoppable, and it's like
I
you
still have
see
hope.
it's like okay, he's better than the level lower than NBA starter. You know,
Yeah.
let's. He's also like 20 years old.
Right.
But I think Kev, you brought up this point during the season that him and DeMar DeRozan just occupy the same
Yeah,
space.
Hmm?
And he just, yeah, and towards the end of the season, he was attacking the rim a whole lot more from the baseline, and that was really cool to see. But maybe he's just a mid-range assassin.
Well, I feel like a lot of the shots he was taking was corner spot up threes, and that's not his game. Like
Right.
it's not the
he
extent of it for sure. Yeah,
yeah. And yeah, I definitely agree. Like even Levine to an extent, like those three guys all occupy similar spaces. I know Levine can be more on the point guard side, but um there's just that's my feeling with the team. It's just there's the chemistry
yeah.
wise, there's just too much clutter and it's not like a team. I don't
That's
know.
that's like the problem with me for Zach is like I think that's the thing he shouldn't be doing is like handling the ball and
Yeah.
playmaking and stuff. It's like he just turns it over,
Right.
you know, because he's just not as natural at that as he is just like being a scorer, getting to the rim, you know. And it's like if you get some of those guys
Mhm.
out and replace it with something else, like you know, he can just like catch and shoot. He can just drive to the rim.
Yeah.
You know, like he's incredible at that. Like he's so athletic. But yeah, when he's on the floor with DeMar, when Pat's on the floor with DeMar, it just sometimes it looks a little too yeah,
Yeah.
the ball
That's
sticks and stuff. So
Man,
that's
if only
why
we had a point guard that pushed the pace.
that's
yeah,
that's as much
only
as I
they had
like
one.
Kobe and AO, like you need a more leader of a point guard to make Levine a better player.
Yeah, that's yeah. I I think like Lonzo is probably the perfect guy for that. It's you know,
RIP.
yeah. I think he's you know, it's hard to like talk so badly about the team when they had the perfect guy. They had the guy, you
Yeah.
know, but they're kind of stuck. I don't know what you're supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, the first half of that season, I was hyped for sure.
Oh, I
Like
was so
So
stoked.
Caruso and Lonzo on the floor at the same time was just like amazing. Like for the
yeah,
defense, at least.
the Caruso, Lonzo, Zach, uh, DeMar, Vooch lineup was like incredible. We went to the Bulls Mavs game kind of early in that season,
Mm-hmm.
like everyone in deeper. And that was the game where like Lonzo threw that pass like all the way like across the court, like it was like a shortstop to first base or
Yeah,
something, you know. And
sidearmed it. Yeah,
Zach did like the 360 dunk. Um, that was the crowd just like absolutely exploded, and it was like I think in that moment we were like, we're going to the finals, like we're doing this. It was yeah.
you felt it in your
Oh man,
bones.
yeah. I remember like waking up at like or like getting home and it was like 2 a.m. and I just like was watching the highlights on YouTube like over again to the game I just went to,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, it was a great feeling for 20
Well,
games.
and two that I mean, even at the end of the season, I think we were sitting at like the 4 seed, and I felt great about that. I'm like, this is better than I thought we were gonna do. And then like people would always say like, you guys haven't beat like any of the good teams, any
Yeah.
of them, and I'm like, I was always like, yeah, in the playoffs it'll be different. It was not.
It was actually worse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We
they were
lost by
actually
like we lost by like 50 to the Bucks. Oh my god.
that was
it was
brutal.
yeah, it was like tragic to watch in the playoffs, but you
Well,
know,
just like I like your attitude though. Let's go into the season with a positive vibe and just hope that they surprise us.
why not? We like our Bulls, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if not, fire sale at the deadline.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm down with that too.
Yeah,
After this, I think it's got to be the last chance.
totally. What I don't want is with Patrick Williams, like you mentioned, I don't want to give up on him like and then he goes somewhere and does Lori where he's like just dominates.
He's
Definitely
absolutely
not.
gonna do that.
Yeah.
That is
He's
absolutely
ours,
gonna
man.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys play basketball at all?
Yeah.
Sure.
Me and Kev, we'll do 2-on-2 against any band.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We will. We will.
I will mark that down for the inevitable indie basketball tournament that happens.
Please.
Oh,
Hell
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. We're 1-0.
yeah.
That's
Done
very
2-on-2 games.
It's very good to know. I've had a couple people on who are like definitely would be down to play. Josh Browanger from the band The Anniversary. He's very he hoops all the time. He would be very down for that.
You just
Dude, oh man, I would love that.
if you invite Milk Belly, unfortunately they're just gonna win it all. It's just how it is. So you want an even field, they can't be in. They're
Okay, that's
too
fair.
tall.
Good to know.
Just split up the twins.
Yeah.
Awesome. And like growing up, you guys play basketball a lot and stuff too?
Yeah, I grew up playing basketball. So my mom had 6 older brothers and we're Native American. So basketball is like the biggest sport on the Rez. And then we have Rez Ball, which is basically the Lonzo Ball version of Bulls, where it very fast pace, all about transition basketball, just take it to the rim. And grew up playing that with my cousins and had one of my uncles. He's maybe 10 years older than I am, so I got to watch him play as a teen, and my grandpa was really stoked on him. He's like, oh, your Uncle Dennis, he's gonna make it to the league.
Oh man.
But so I'd hoop all the time and I played a little bit of AAU. But when I stopped growing when I was 14 and I'm 6'2", and I was like a little chubby, like 6'2", like 180, 190, and now I'm 6'2", 165. And but all of my coaches are like, oh man, Shiraz is gonna be like 7 foot, like he's a guaranteed 5. I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm a center, you know, like I want to play like a 3 or a 4, you know. And so freshman year, they're really pushing me to be the 5, and then going into sophomore year, they saw I didn't grow an inch, and then they just kind of gave up on me. So I got really bummed out, quit the
Damn.
team. But then when I moved to Chicago when I was 19, just started hooping again and just fell back in love with the sport. And now I try and go to the Y at least once a week, get some runs in.
Nice. I'd absolutely be down to hoop some time. So
Dude, let's
I'm
do
in
it,
Chicago
man.
as well. Yeah. What about you, Kev?
I mean, I don't have quite the story that Shiraz has. To put that lightly, I played, at the Y, like in the Y leagues growing
Park
up and
District.
stuff,
Yeah.
and Park District leagues, and I was always like, I would always try out for the team in like middle school, and like maybe freshman year of high school is the last year I did, and I'd always have that conversation like right at the end of the tryout, they'd be like, you're the first guy. Like, oh, if we had one more spot on the
I
team,
feel that.
one more.
Mhm.
I'd just be like, oh man, I wasn't really good. Like, I mean, I wasn't good. I didn't really have a thing. So they could
Yeah,
just
yeah.
probably look at me and just be like, he's kind of all right. What are we gonna do with him on the floor? It's like, I don't know.
I honestly feel like that is like the story for people like us who are like,
Yeah,
all right, I get into music, but I still love basketball because like
yeah,
I was good at it to a degree at some points.
yeah. It was like I played like soccer and baseball growing up
Mhm.
too. Basketball was my worst for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I was all right. Like I was kind of athletic. I was chubby and athletic,
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah. I was the first kid cut, so
Yeah.
never really
Well,
got off the ground.
Kevin's got a mean left.
Okay.
Yeah. No one expects you to be left-handed, so you can just kind of go
Yeah.
left on. Yeah,
Nice. Um, yeah, sure. As you mentioned, being 6'2", and people thought I'm 6'5", so like I feel the same. Although I feel like I do actually play like a center. But then
Hmm.
I always go back and I look at NBA players. I'm like, dude, I'm a point guard in the league. Like
I know, man. I
six
keep
five
telling
is a
my
point guard.
right. I keep telling my fiance, it's like, look, Steph Curry, he's taller than me. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's the athleticism unmatched, obviously. The last thing before we get into our last segment, I wanna ask you, particularly Shiraz, growing up in Paris, do you have any sort of connection to Mr. Wembanyama now?
Oh,
Do
dude,
you root for him?
of course, man. I'm really stoked on him. Tony Parker was like the
Mm-hmm.
man when I was growing up, and it's really cool to see like Tony really took him under his wing, had him playing on his team over in France,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really psyched that he's on the Spurs. Honestly, I think he's gonna flourish there, and he wanted to be a Spur too. You
Yeah.
know, everyone knows that,
Yeah.
but
So the
it's
NBA, that was rigged, right? We can,
yeah.
we're all right with that. Like everyone's fine. Everyone's
I'm
like, good.
cool with that one.
Yeah, it's good. He didn't go to the Hornets. Great. He's
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
Spurs. Good.
I mean, considering you had like Jordan, who pretty much ruined like a first number one pick in like Kwame Brown, and then they're
Oh
like,
my
we're not going
God.
to repeat that with Wembanyama.
Yeah,
It's just
we're not letting him go to the Hornets. No.
yeah.
But it's cool. My dad still lives out in Paris, and I was out there, I guess over a year ago now. But every time I go back, I see more and more basketball courts
Awesome.
and more kids playing, and it's really sick to see how global the game is now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting. So yeah, the last segment I mentioned to this before. There's a little game sometimes we play. It's called Musician Matchups. And we're gonna do a Bulls edition where basically I have a list of players and we're gonna try and come up with what kind of player comp to, or a band comp rather, to the player, based on whatever justification you have. So we'll go one by one. We'll each give our answer for each person. But we'll
Great.
start with Alex Caruso, and we'll start with you, Kevin.
All right. Caruso was a little tough.
Uh-huh.
I I landed on Bill Fay. Uh, and I don't know, Bill Fay was like a guy who was like kind of like 1970 folk guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't like flashy. He wasn't like, well, I wouldn't say he wasn't flashy because Caruso is kind of flashy in a way that you don't like expect, or just like people consider him to be this like really minimal folk guy, but he just has like an understanding of music
Yeah.
down well that like, you know, I felt like I was like, who is a guy who would like be like, what's defense in in making music? And I was like playing piano and writing songs,
Uh-huh.
I guess, you know, it's like the bare bones of like what can make music successful when everything else is taken away. So uh I was also just listening to Bill Fay yesterday, and I
There
was
you
like,
go.
I kind of wanted to bring him up because it's so good. Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of guys in that era that fit, like a Graham Nash or like a,
Yeah.
just that 60s, 70s singer songwriter feel. I get that.
Yeah, where it's just like, yeah, when taken away, all other elements, defense works, you know.
Nice. Good pick. What about you, Shiraz?
That's pretty good, Kev. Mine's pretty straightforward. I said Big Thief. Just because he's the Cookie Monster,
Yes.
and he's the thief of the league. Um, and he seems like Caruso might be a folk guy, he's a Texan, like, and they're like they can be a little flashy at points,
Mhm.
and I think it kind of works.
Absolutely. I
Nice.
totally get that. And the genesis of indie basketball was all puns, so I highly appreciate
I
Yeah.
got you, bro.
that. Mine was like a little bit of a cop out. I think still think Caruso is underrated. He'll always be a little underrated. So I wanted to go with a band that I just felt was underrated and deserved more attention. So this is my time to shout out the band Superviolet, because they're
Nice.
awesome, and the album that came out this year I'm a big fan of. So that's just my chance to just shout out a random band that I'm into.
Yeah. So yeah, I did the same with Bill Fay. I was like,
Yeah,
people should know how good Bill Fay is. Yeah.
for sure. The next one, this will get more specific for sure. I feel like we're all painting a picture with Joakim Noah.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
We'll start same rotation. We'll go every time.
Great. Yeah, I had fun with this one. For Noah, I said 100 gex.
Hell
I
yeah.
thought it. I thought it.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like Noah was certainly like he was a little ahead of his time. Like, if people don't remember the entire Noah game, like he would like create, and his passing was so good at the time where that wasn't a thing that centers really did. He could like take the point sometimes.
Mhm.
So he was kind of like innovative, ahead of his time, had a really like varied game, and no one really knew like how seriously to take him when he when he entered the league, or thought he was annoying, or that he maybe was bad.
Mhm.
But the people that love them like are obsessed with Noah.
That's where
Or
that's where I went with it.
yeah,
He's the
yeah,
guy you love him when he's on your team.
yeah. When you like him, you're like obsessed with him.
Yeah.
I love 100 gex, and everyone hates them, and I feel that from people whenever I play them.
I personally am on the outside, but I understand. I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. I mean, it took a second for me, but maybe, yeah, maybe
Okay.
not that.
All right.
Nice, Kev. Mine's kind of in that world too. Death Grips.
Oh yes.
Yeah, just pure energy, controlled chaos. Like he'll punch you in the mouth,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
I was trying to think of a French band like that, but I just landed on Death Grips, man. One of my favorite bands of all time. And Joakim Noah, one of my favorite players of all time.
Hell
I
yeah.
used to hoop with a bun, and you're playing 3-on-3, people are gonna call you Joakim Noah.
Yeah, of course they
Yeah.
are.
Also a low-key French legend as
Yeah.
well.
Oh yeah.
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 True. Very nice. You guys went pretty like aggro with the energy. And I went, to me, Joakim as a person gives off very chill vibes,
Yeah.
very go with the flow. And so
Absolutely.
I feel like he's got like a washed out vibe to him, He's
Nice.
very like it's energy, but it's like it's a calming energy.
Totally.
His like post career Instagram feed is absolutely that. He's always
Look
by a
at the way he
waterfall.
dresses. Oh yeah.
Yeah, what a
Dude,
great
and the amount of work he does in Chicago too, man, it's awesome. What
Yeah,
a good guy.
absolutely. I'm very happy he kind of, you know, he's sticking to be a part of the organization too. And
yeah.
I think the last game I was at, they did like a thing where he was there and kind of a giveaway or something like I think it was a Joking Noah bobblehead giveaway or something.
Hell yeah.
Did you get the bobblehead?
I didn't. No, I arrived way too late.
Tied.
All right, so down the list, our guy Derek Rose.
Okay, for for Derek Rose, Shiraz and I, we didn't like reveal who we comped these players with because we wanted to hear it on the pod. But we both said that we like listed like 4 people for
Yeah,
this. So many people came up,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
know.
And so I so I said Lou Reed. They
Wow.
both had like really good early careers, and they both went through a terrible injury. In Lou Reed's sense, losing John Cale from the Velvet Underground,
Damn.
and then after that, they weren't good at all. So that that is yeah.
I get it. I see the path.
Nice. This was hard for me, man. I really wanted, at first I was thinking, okay, Chicago, I'm gonna go King Von, you know, like he was in his prime and got murdered and really sad, and he was the king of the old block. But then I was like, but he's kind of like outcast. Like the
Ooh.
way he hoops is the way that Andre 3000 raps, but the way he really is, he's more like big boy, you know,
Yeah.
he's chilling in the back. And then after his injury, he low key was the outcast of the league for what, a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So that made sense to me.
Wow.
What a good one.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like at a glance I wouldn't necessarily get it, but the explanation makes total sense.
Hell yeah.
Love that. For me, I mean Derek Rose, like I already said, very important to me as like a Chicago, you know, figure, I guess. And another band that's very important to me is the Chicago band, and that's Wilco.
Ooh.
In my, not obviously when you look at Wilco and Derek Rose, like you're not going to see any similarities, but like the way I feel about both of these you know, band slash player, like I feel a similar way to both of them.
Yeah.
Wilco is a huge part in like me meeting my wife, and like you know, I was very into them. I got into Wilco the same time that I was really into Derek. You know, Derek Rose was winning MVP, so it was. I feel like there's just a lot of synergy in how I feel about both those people.
Yeah, Wilco like embodies a certain sense of Chicago really well. That's like pretty obvious, but
Absolutely.
it's very much felt. Like even if you aren't a fan, you kind of know it. And Derrick Rose is the same way, where like the way he plays basketball is like a very Chicago style.
Mm-hmm.
To see that being played in the NBA, like meant a lot to so many people, you know.
Exactly. And I feel like, you know, if you're not from Chicago, people can look at it and still be like, okay, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right. So heading into the final stretch, we got Scottie Pippen next.
Yeah, for Scottie was the other
fun.
one I was really stuck on. It was tough. It's tough to feel out, but I said Billy Woods.
That
And
album's good.
yeah, and so I was like, when I was growing up, Scottie was always like my personal favorite. I was like always rooting for Scottie to have like good games. And I just always wanted people to like appreciate him more. I think he was, but it felt like he wasn't you know, I don't know, appreciated enough. So I'm always like rooting for Billy Woods. I just want him to be huge, and I like how like prolific he is and how consistent he is. He like collaborates well with a bunch of different people, and I also feel like I feel like Scottie could like he could like walk into like any era of the NBA like from like 1960 to like today,
Mhm.
and he would still be like just as good. His
Absolutely.
game would still be just as good as it was in the 90s. I feel like Billy Woods is the same, where like just the way he raps and the way he like sees music is like something that you could put in like all the way to like the late 80s and
Yeah,
people would still understand what he's doing. So
For
that's
sure.
excellent. Yeah.
Um, this was also a really hard one for me. And at practice, I jokingly said Scottie Pippen, Sonic Youth, but then driving home, it made more and more sense. For the same reason Kevin was saying, like Scottie Pippen, like should have been bigger than what he was,
Mhm.
you know, but he was next to the King. Sonic Youth, I feel like should be the same level as the Cure. They are massive, but I think they should be bigger. Timeless as well. You listen back to like Sister and
Mhm.
was recording what 87 or something, and it feels like it was just recorded like a year ago.
Totally.
And then even like the internal divide at Sonic Youth, like Thurston Moore
Mhm.
is probably Scottie Pippen low key. Like nowadays, post The Last Dance, it's like,
yeah,
what's up with Scottie, man? Just ripping on Jordan nonstop. Like, is Thurston Moore better without Kim Gordon? No, you know. So
uh,
that's why I think Sonic Youth makes
That's
sense.
that's really good. I think Thurston's actually taller than Scottie Pippen though. He might,
No
he might
way.
yeah. I think Thurston's like a good 6'9". He's a giant.
that's amazing. That's too, like so perfect.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I did I had a similar kind of thing that you ended on with, like, after post Last Dance, like, Scotty, what are you doing? Uh
Straight up, man.
and I, for that reason, I honed in on that and I went with Noel Gallagher. Because he's,
Yeah.
every time you hear Noel Gallagher talk, he's just like poking. It's like, I don't know. We'll get back together when you talk to Liam. He's
Yeah.
like, whatever. So
Yeah. And then you talk to Liam and he's
yeah. So I don't want this to make it seem that this means that Liam Gallagher is Michael Jordan, because he is not. I just felt like the way that Scotty's been acting lately does feel a little I feel like Noel Gallagher just goes on social media and does these interviews specifically just to like call him out.
yeah. When Scotty was promoting that whiskey or whatever, like that was about maybe 6 months after the last dance. That was peak weird. I was like, someone's gotta talk to Scotty.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, like, he said that literally, like, he was Jordan was bad. Like when he was
Yeah, man.
when he was younger, like he was a terrible player. Like what?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know,
Yeah. So it's
Scotty.
like, I don't know if you believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
And that leads us to our final, the GOAT, Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So I said Kevin Shields.
Wow, Kev.
And so originally I was like, I just tried to think of someone who kind of like retired a bunch of times and
Mm-hmm.
came back. So I was like, the first thing I thought of was My Bloody Valentine, taking 20 years between records. And then I was like, I think like every 10 months or so, I like put on Loveless or like Isn't Anything, and it just like blows me away again. I think a lot of people have that feeling. So it's just like I've been doing that since I was like 15 years old. It's like
Mm-hmm.
going back to it every 10 months and just being like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And I was like, you can also do that with like Jordan highlights
Right.
on YouTube. Like every 10 months, just like looking at this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So, and they're both, Jordan's the greatest, and in for what he does, Kevin Shields kind of will never be topped.
Yeah, I feel like at the very least you can say that My Bloody Valentine is the GOAT of shoegaze.
Yeah, you
Like,
Oh,
can't
no doubt.
you can't really touch it. Like you
yeah,
can like a different style of it, but
sure.
just had a conception of it that was just beyond. Yeah.
Totally.
It was hard for me not to say like Michael Jackson, so I said James Brown.
Yeah.
He
It's like
was
what how many
right,
personalities can really match Michael Jordan?
right. It's like all the kings, you know.
Yeah.
James Brown was a king of his time, changed the game. Like no one saw him move that way before. And I just saw this funny clip of Michael Jordan doing like a behind the back dribble from his
Mhm.
right hand to his right hand. And the announcer was like, I've never seen that happen in my life. Like he just created a new move. And
Yeah.
just like the way James Brown like also the way like yeah, James Brown conducted his band and Michael Jordan just conducting the team and
Totally.
taking lead, but also like kind of like the wild eyes of James Brown, like towards the end of his career, kind of like the wild red eyes of Michael Jordan, and it has a little bit of a gambling problem,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. Sounds about right. I think I went, it's kind of maybe a cop out, maybe it's lame, but like the Beatles, like
Yeah, I
like
mean,
Yep.
what else do you do? And I feel like, the Beatles didn't invent rock music. Like Michael Jordan didn't invent basketball. He just he made it popular. He made it global, and I feel like the Beatles did the same thing. And on a second tier, I feel like the way people view Michael Jordan now is like the greatest. The new generation doesn't necessarily see that, and I feel like the new generation doesn't get the Beatles.
That's a great call. Yeah.
Everyone's just going now. They just go straight like LeBron. Of course, it's LeBron, because like the people like you don't get it. You're too young. You don't understand.
Yeah, you weren't there. Yeah, they're the only people that were like kind of so popular during their time that they
Yeah.
kind of had to stop
Yeah,
because they were too big. They
totally,
could no one could handle that amount of fame, right? Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
All right. Well, I think we had a lot of solid comps here. Um, that
yeah,
Thank you so much for joining, guys.
that was really fun.
This has been a lot of fun. Um, do you have guys have any like before we go? You guys have any like shows coming up or anything you want to talk about?
we're playing Pitchfork this Saturday. Really stoked for
Oh yeah.
that one. And then we'll just be on the road a lot starting in September. So come see us and talk basketball.
Oh
Yeah.
yes,
Come to the merch table and talk hoop. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, you
And
guys have the better ratio than maybe any other band I've talked to of people who are into basketball. Like
Yeah.
majority of your band is into basketball.
We're
yeah,
we're like a pretty obsessive hoops fan. Yeah, for sure.
Love it.
Yeah.
we'll be in the green room streaming the old Reddit streams.
We honestly, yeah, we just played like some shows with Future Islands in May, and the green room is really nice when you're playing in the rooms that Future Islands plays at. So we would just hook up either like the TV to like a computer. Or, yeah, we watch games every day,
Hell yeah.
pretty much during Future Islands set half the time. So yeah, it's a
Amazing.
good way to spend a night.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Dude, great talking to you, man.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's hoop.
exchange numbers and hoop. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. I'll catch you guys later.
All right, peace, y'all.